you for putting up with me, and it's so great to have you. Let's get to Aaron Rodgers, though. What are your thoughts on how the Packers have handled this?
Well, I mean, I think it's still June, right? So I think everything right now gets a little bit probably blown out of proportion. But I think this all goes back to a year ago and the draft of Jordan Love. And it just seemed very odd to me at that time with a guy who's got a career of at least another contract ahead of him, I think, because of what the way the game is today. We see Tom Brady playing into his 40s, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees. And they're one game away from going to a championship game to supply him maybe with another weapon. But that being said, he came back and had a great year. So I think it all comes back to that right now. And, again, I think he all plays out. I don't know if it's a big deal with him not being at OTAs and everything else. So I think we'll have to see how it plays out as we close the camp.
Coach, I appreciate you being on the show. Always good to see you, sir. I got to ask you this question. To me, forget Jordan Love. What I've religiously stated is that clearly it's a situation, and I was told this on good authority, that essentially on several occasions, this superstar of an athlete, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, goes up to management, makes suggestions about what he'd like to see with the organization in order to put him in a better position to win. And he was summarily basically told, hey, you know what? You play, we run the organization. And it was summarily dismissed. I think this is about respect. I'd like you to speak to how important it is for a player, particularly one of his caliber, to feel like he is respected by the organization he plays for and represents. How important is that, particularly in today's NFL?
Well, I think it's always been important, Stephen, that a player feels a sense of ownership of the locker room. This is your leader. He's a guy you have to listen to. Doesn't mean you're always going to answer every question or give him everything he wants, but he needs to have input, and that is about respect. That's being a good listener. I go back to when I was coaching. Rod Woodson will walk off the sideline. We need to blitz more, coach. And I tell Don Capers, no, we need to blitz more. Players have to have input because they're the ones out there playing. I think good coaches, good organizations recognize that. Again, there's certain structures and guidelines you have to abide by and stick to. But boy, you like to feel like they're a part of what you're trying to build.
Coach, it's great to have you on the show. As most football fans know, if you grew up, you were a little kid in the 70s, you either rooted for the Cowboys or the Steelers if your home team stunk, right? And if you didn't have a soul, you rooted for the Cowboys. And nevertheless, I've rooted for the Steelers, as Stephen A. did. And there have only been three coaches in my lifetime. Even if you went, 10 years before I was born, 3 coaches in my lifetime, and you're one of them. And the reason for that is you guys win all the time, and Tomlin's done that. Never been under 500. But the division with the Browns and the Ravens and even the Bengals on the come up. Do the Steelers make the playoffs this year? They won 12 games last year. Did they make the playoffs this year?
I think they will. They'll be in the hunt, Max. When you look at them, yes, the division's got tougher, but you look, I love the pick of Najee Harris. I think they need to get back to running the football and having more balance in the offense. We'll take a little bit of that pressure off of Ben. He's got a lot of weapons. The offense is going to be it's all going to come down to the offensive line. There's a lot of changes taking place there. If they can come together, like the best way to help an offensive line, run the football. And defensively, they get Devin Bush back, and that's a top-tier defense. So, yes, the division's gotten better, but they've got a lot of veterans in that locker room that know how to win close games, and that's what's going to come down to. And they've got a great kicker and kicking game. So I think they're going to be in the hunt, and, yes, I would say they will make the playoffs.
Coach, let's stay with the Steelers because I was going to play some sound here quick for Coach. Your quarterback, Stephen A. Big Ben. Let me play that and let you react here, Coach.
That's where I was going.
I'm going to approach this like I do every season, like it's my last. I mean, I think that's the approach you have to take. And you don't approach it that way because it could be your last, but you approach it because every single play in the game of football could be your last. Every game could be your last game. And that just means I'm going out to give it everything I have. I've never looked towards the future. I've always looked towards the right here and now.
Coach, do you see this as Big Ben's last year?
Oh, it probably will be. I would think so, and I think he does. He lives by that. He is taking it 1 year at a time. I certainly would think this would be. And, he wanted to come back. It didn't end the way he wanted to. I think he missed it 2 years ago, a whole season, and I think he realized at that time how much football meant to him. And I think he's applied himself a little bit differently and looked at things differently, and not taking anything for granted. Yeah, I do believe this will be his last year, and I think what they've not tried to do is bring everybody else back. They've brought Juju back and try to re-sign a lot of the players. And so this will be kind of, I think it's a farm song right here.
Coach, how good do you feel these Steelers will be this season? You got a veteran at the quarterback spot in Big Ben Roethlisberger. You got about 5 wideouts. You drafted Najee Harris. You're getting back Devin Bush, like you pointed out, on the defensive side of the ball. And the defense, last time I checked, wasn't too shabby. It's top 5.
No.
How good do you think the Steelers will be this year? And do you think they're being underestimated?
Well, I'm not sure what people are looking at them at. I go back to the same thing. It comes down to that offensive line. They lost Marquise Pouncey, and that was a big part of what they want to do. Alejandro left and went to Villanueva, went to the Baltimore Ravens, a left tackle. So there's some new people coming in right there, and that offensive line needs to gel. And I go back to the same thing. Najee Harris can catch the ball out of the backfield, but you bring him in there to build an offense around running the football. That will take the pressure off the quarterback. If the play action game goes, you have now, as you pointed out, the group of receivers that they have. And defensively, getting Devin Bush back, that is a good defense. So again, they can stay healthy. Offensive line can play well. They will be in the hunt.
Coach, we haven't asked you about Julio Jones yet. It looks like he's out of there. Where do you think he ends up?
My first thought, I thought, if you think about a veteran late in his career, where do you go to flourish? New England, right? I mean, they all do. But I think the one thing I keep seeing is Russell Wilson. Last year, they're trying to get Antonio Brown. And so where Russell Wilson is right now, you talk about him wanting to have input as well. We talked about Aaron Rodgers earlier. I could see Julio Jones in Seattle. I think it'll be a great compliment to DK Metcalf. And I think you're going to get a player that's out to prove himself, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So I would look at that. And again, it goes back to what does Atlanta asking for him? And what people are going to be willing to give up for him, where he is in his career.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Player, coach, analyst, now author. I love the title. Heart and Steel. It's out, Coach. Why'd you decide to write this?
Molly, when I got in the Hall of Fame, you start to reflect on your football life. And when the pandemic came, I started to reflect on my life. And so you start to think about how you grew up, where you grew up. And so I decided I wanted to write a book. But getting the right collaborator was important. So the collaboration I got was with Michael Hawley. And Michael Hawley went to Point Park College, which is in Pittsburgh, grew up in Northeast Ohio. As we sat down and did this, I told him I didn't want a football book. I was about football, family, and one's life journey of lessons learned. And that's what this book is really about. So hopefully I think you'll enjoy it. I reveal a lot more than I ever had publicly. And so, there's a lot of heartaches, there's opportunities, there's lessons in there, but it's all about personal growth, as we talked about from where I grew up in Crafton to where I am today.
Coach, thank you so much for being with us, and I can't wait to read it. I'm always looking to grow, and especially from greats like yourself. So thank you so much for the time today. It was a lot of fun.
Back in the day, Michael Hawley. Yeah.
Thank you,
Good
Coach.
choice.
Thank you, Coach.
Enjoy it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. We'll talk to you. When we come back here on First Take, who would you want on your team more?